Did you?
Yeah, just happened.
Okay.
Oh.
That's something that I would not be able to do.
It took us, two of us, about an hour and a half to get it.
Not yet, I haven't seen him
But
yet.
you were here early then as well.
Yeah. No, I sat with a friend a couple days ago and got everything
And got everything
ironed out and working.
Oh, look at me go! Look how you want to do it! Woot woot!
And I did about 10 years in it.
Everything is backwards.
No?
Backwards, not good.
Why is it backwards?
I don't know.
I can do this. So it's going to show that.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
This is, but you clicked it off?
No? No, just leave it.
Oh, it's going across here now.
Yes. See, it's just starting to show.
I've done it fully 3 times.
I want to set it on an airplane.
Oh, I see.
And it doesn't want to go.
I see.
We'll let
I'll
it go.
just leave it. I guess I should put mine on airplane.
Yeah, I think we should.
Isn't that fantastic?
And I'm like, okay, whatever comes out, comes out.
I think so.
Because even when I practice it, I find that when I speak, when I practice it, what comes out when I'm here is try.
Did you?
Yeah, the energy is I'm really happy with how the flowers turned out. Quite good at it.
Bye, Hedda.
Hello.
Sorry.
These are up my yard.
Where do we want to put your mother?
Puppies. Yeah.
Do you want her
No,
to
that's
be
how I do yours for copies.
Are you're sitting there, right?
Yeah, I kind of need to be here to babysit this equipment.
Okay. So can I sit next to you?
Sure.
Okay.
And Hedda, let's have Mom beside you.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yes, that was kind of what we were just.
Mom and then Frank, so she's kind of flanked. Nice color.
Oh, thanks.
Like lilacs. Yeah. Okay. I don't need an Eyben yet. I think I'm okay.
If we do this right, you won't need.
Hi.
Hello.
You're Marilyn?
Merrily.
I'm Lucy.
Okay, it's 12, so I'll put shoes on at 12:30. I'll put proper shoes on. Because we go back to this in 13.
Yeah.
And the name.
Yes.
That's what I can
Do you remember Eric and Sandra?
So everything's okay so far.
Eric is my brother.
No.
Right. Now, the other day I was saying, oh, it's just like
whatever works.
but that good.
I know.
Excuse me?
Yeah, right.
Wherever you're comfortable. Hi. How are you?
Hello.
Thank you so much for doing my work.
Not a problem.
Really appreciate it.
These are gyno.
I like simple.
These are gyno.
Well, mine, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that your taxes are simple, but just making the whole process simple.
I know.
Doesn't have to be
Yeah, I
complicated.
know where you live.
Okay, I have a job for you.
What do you do?
I know you live with a phone beside you at all times.
Yeah, I have a
Can you
phone.
log into YouTube and see if we actually are displaying on Eyben channel?
No, I certainly didn't.
Go to YouTube and go on Eyben. That should be broadcasting that picture right there.
Is he in a certain floor that he's on for extended care?
It's simply possible to find this.
Where's your Right here. So just
Not live.
Frank will be by mom. So you can be okay. That'll work. Like me and act like you're not watching this. Okay. What's just gonna happen right now? Because nobody needs to see it. You know what? Nobody cares. Yeah, well, I care, and
Wrong video.
I brought it. Oh, what is that? It's oh, and what was
How do you start this?
it's a mix. I'm Joni. Hi, I'm Colleen. My cousin Joni, my best friend Colleen. It's a mix of I just think your tea needs more. Oh, it does, but it's too full, so I need to drink. Yes, that's okay. That's just between us.
Okay, how do you get this thing to start?
So who have you got sitting with you? Michael, Adam, Mom, Frank, Call and I, and then there's 2 spots there, and there's a spot there. So I didn't know if you'd be your mom and Jim can be next to Paul, and then we should probably leave that one empty, I guess. Again? Exactly. So yeah, so I mean, if you guys want to take over with Mayor and Mom, that's perfect. You know what? Just take over.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about
My mom's gonna be on. If Mom's at the same table as your mom, so if we can put your mom and Jim right here next to Call.
okay, then that's and everything else, everyone else.
Yeah, Mom will have Hedda, and she'll have Frank. Yeah. And so she'll be okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mayor. Yes. I'm gonna put my cousin Joni and her family at your guys' table. So let's just call your table full. So if somebody comes along, you just say, yes. The whole table full, or you could. Yeah.
I got this thing to work.
You're
Why
saving
won't
some
work?
places here. I'm gonna have to do this too.
I can't get it to do the Ron Eyben stream. It just wants to do Michael.
Because it's just Mayor and her
Where's your
mom.
So your short is going to be there, right next to, I'm just going to be Michael, me, Dorothy, and then Frank and me.
Okay, so we've got this table all reserved.
Yes.
And what about that one? Oh, that's family.
Yeah, the ones that say family on there.
Okay.
But if you want to grab another one,
Yeah, maybe I'll do one of these. Yeah.
okay.
I can't get it to switch over to the
I know it. And I need to change your shoes. I was gonna put these on.
No.
Try your name. I already feel that working. Actually, I can take the tea. Oh. Somebody's smart. I'm not smart. Don't use this joystick again. I'm throwing away mine now. I can just see that happening. Me too. So I know the complete district.
It takes about 3 minutes.
Oh, there you go.
For what?
So it's under Michael's.
Okay, Rhonda. For some reason, it's only coming up under my name, not Ron Eyben. I can't get it to switch to the other name.
I'm just,
Tuning up.
yeah, that's right.
If someone searches Ron Eyben, do you show up?
No, there's still his name is still up on another feed channel, but I can't get it to switch.
Can you tell these people? It's too late. Well,
Let them keep working at
that's
it.
the thing. You're going to do the best you can do, and it's either going to work or it isn't, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. No, we've done the best we can with what we have. Oh no, these are I know, it's disgusting, isn't it? Look at how fat it is. I wasn't going to say disgusting. It's more, now it's going to be just a sausage. It is, it's fat, but it's even a different color. It's because I've been on it all morning. I haven't heat up or oh no, I like this one. We already had this conversation.
I'm deciding it. She's like, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it.
I lost, now I can't even get it. But actually, it's not a bad idea. Can you sit for a couple seconds? Yeah, I probably can, but I try
Now I've lost the event.
Michael, don't worry. It'll work. It'll be fine. I know that you'll make it work. You made this work, you're going to make it work. He fixed that.
It's tough because it's unfamiliar.
Of course, it's totally a unfamiliar territory. But he made this work. So there's certain things you know certain people can do, right? Pam, I know he can fix anything in my house that breaks. Pam, I know he can fix anything to happen. Just, I know. You should sit. You're going to be standing up for quite a while. I will. Thank you.
She's not going to.
She will look around. Everybody was quite nice. I just want to be nice to her after a bit.
Yeah, because you can get away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, the Piper is here. I need to go. Yeah. Try my tea. Try it. Try it.
Do another search on Ron Eyben.
The bike? I was wrong. I was too. Yes, I was. I saw you.
Ron Eyben.
Well, I was standing at the door and I see the 3 dogs and I'm like, well, the car's gone. Okay.
No, well, yeah, by the time, because I was in the back, and I come out, and I see you. He's like, I can hear him fighting. I think, and I was thinking, oh, at first I thought it was just going home, right? And then I remember, because the dogs were going, I'm like, oh yeah, they just were going to be.
There is a 3 to 6 minute delay between here and there. So,
Yeah, you're cooking with, you did it.
I hate computers.
She's dealing with the pipe.
You do not. You love it.
You did it.
Okay, maybe you don't.
You put it on, and now you get the last
Yeah.
beat.
Okay,
I
awesome.
know I should have done.
How'd you do
Oh,
it?
by the way, Frank, this is a live feed to the internet.
I better keep my pants on. Robbie, you know,
Hey, I got the camera, I can point it at you.
I see. As far as playing it, I get you here.
For a change.
I immigrated here saying I'm having some wings. So, you're going to go. I go, why? Oh, okay.
Let's move it. Okay.
Are you got a glass? No.
Yeah, he said you're doing really good, actually. He says, yeah, he's doing really good. He said the only thing that he thought he needed to work on was just there's just,
Oh, I do.
and that's the worst for
Because
everyone.
even the little Suzuki that the guy's training, they're going going over.
Okay.
A little bit on the road. When you get it really slow, it's one of those yours.
See, I may never go past my car.
What city would you start?
Yeah,
It's literally not going to hurt. So I'm fine with that. I just don't want to practice talking. I remember that. It even says when you're going to take off, take tap. For you. Doc. You go. Lean this way, right? Because your foot should be on the not beginning of this foot. As soon as you get going, that's you never know because you can do this as you're going, right? Okay. I thought you might. Your foot can go before you lift it, so you get a little bit. Don't tap it. I first met him in '65. that's why that's close.
He retired from.
Oh, Rock did.
Yeah, well, to me, he goes to Paris, which
They moved to Edmonton.
still working as a player.
Yeah.
Doing his own research.
I haven't seen you for ages, kiddo.
Yeah. Hi. That was, did you see you got that?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. My name's Jody, by the way. Hi, Jody. Marilyn. Yes. Oh, okay. Gotcha. My mom has Jody loves chocolate. Somebody passed it. No, and she passed away. So it wasn't thinking
They are. And I looked and he's pulled over. Like, really? I wound on it, I looked and he looked at me. Okay. The exact time that I could do it. Well, I waited. Passed me, and I again. And I pulled him. He pulled over.
well, he passed and he forgot. I can nurse right in the one hour.
Went, there was a lot of room. Lots of room.
That's fine.
To the young guy.
Of course.
Nothing to do with it.
You're fine. People will come find you, Mama.
Cousin of mine. One more time. She didn't put the guest book even lower because people are putting cards on the table. We could do that.
Sounds good.
So you only have one thing to say.
Yes. Did you try it?
Did you?
Well, I know it's the same as mine.
This is good. Tea is scary.
Are you drinking?
Makes the world just that much better. You of all people should understand that this is the appropriate moment for me to drink.
Wasn't that nice and smooth? It's complex area. It's actually probably
Okay, I'm gonna put my foot up for a minute. So,
When is everything stop?
months. Yeah, it's been a couple of months. I did my knee and
So, Rhonda, you said there's...
I thought that Jack can get you what?
Oh, it is. I thought I was going to try yours.
oh, mine's
A bag of ice cubes.
Is that playing itself?
no, that's just the one that's up there as everybody comes in. And of course, everybody keeps saying, is that wrong? Is that wrong?
I don't know. I liked it sort of when it was flipping through.
Okay, so you got your spot. Okay, Frank will be beside you, Pat will be beside you, and then Auntie, I don't know how many ladies. But you, so just ask her. She'll
Don't worry. You don't run into each other. Anyhow, she got a boy, 2 boys. One is 2, Capson, and Thomas just got born. So that's the highlight of that. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Stop it, right?
Really? Yes.
Okay, what are we doing here? Hot water? That copy's not ready.
Yes, I know. I'm so relieved that the rain stopped. Because you know how these guys are. Yeah. I'm sure that they have like covers and how's it going? No,
You don't have to milk. I can milk the cow.
You know everything sounds like honky tonk anyway.
Oh, yes, I know. You did, Shepherd. I married your daughter. Oh, okay. Anyhow, what Gordon and Ron cooked the last meal at the flower show. He's a lawyer.
Oh, one more.
Yeah, me. I'll milk the cow, I told you. Oh my gosh. They're bringing the cream. Hi. Jackie. See you. Yeah. Oh, don't worry about it. That coffee's on. This guy I know. Everybody knows. I was just asking about Gordon and John. The last meal. Yeah. I should ask you. That's mine. Well, I guess. I don't know if God still wants to use me, so I just are you still doing the bands or what are you doing? That's what it is. John, I met John somewhere.
I heard you guys were doing it. Just trying to check when I was
Oh, she's right there. My mom.
Or the tears.
He likes my name.
You waiting for bingo to start?
Yeah.
Something's different here. The kitchen is still there. You got married here, remember, Jack? You guys played. See you later, Jackson.
We've been back and forth and back
It
and
is
forth
what
on
it
the
is.
phone.
You've been back and forth.
On the phone.
Hi, Hannah. Nice to meet you. And you're married to Michael? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, yeah, Patty, yes. And where's Michael at? Because we were out there for a little while looking at cars and talking. And we saw Ron's car out there. That's nice. Ron's car. Yeah, that's nice. Yes. That's quite a picture. And I just sent Neil and Irene a picture of that stage thing. That was before them on stage. And Neil had his prom on and they had their and that was at Andora's and Uncle George's 40th, I guess. 40th or 50th? 40th, okay, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. So that'll be a stage.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's one of our jokes is getting track. Yeah.
No, it ain't gonna happen. He thinks something was outside.
When we wrote it, you could just shut up. Yes. No one's saying
Guess you don't need it anymore.
Here, I got some. It's a line, quite a few.
I know, I was already talking to her and I said after the last reunion, I went over to oh, but I never did get into it. It's just a tiny little. Yes, yeah. Yeah, we were just up at Whistler, so we walked up. But then yesterday, well, yeah, exactly. I want to dress, but I thought,
Say hi to my Auntie Eleanor. Hi, Auntie Eleanor. I hope you're logged in. Did you see your Piper? I did indeed. We've already had a chat.
This is a cousin from the prairie.
Somebody's been bumping. Somebody watched.
Sorry?
Oh, somebody must have bumped it because it wasn't pointing center.
Oh, it's possible. Is it better now?
Yes.
The feed is still feeding?
I don't know. I don't have a camera. I don't have. I can't see the external feed, but
Well, I
I do
have the
believe.
phone. Do you want me to check
You can
it?
check it.
Oh, you can take a chair. I might pick you up when I need it back. How's that? Okay.
And your YouTube.
Okay, good. Perfect. YouTube.com. No, switch back. Good. Like what? Okay. Just thinking we should keep an eye on the sensors to make sure that makes sense that it's working and stuff. Hey, there's people watching.
Hey, Rhonda Bear.
There.
Okay, walk in front.
Me?
Yeah.
It'll come through 3 minutes later.
It's delayed, eh?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Good to go. Two people watching. You were Ron's assistant, right? Or, yeah, as maybe. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. Smart man. Thanks for
Okay,
I want to say hi to Lucy. Lucy.
Okay, good job.
Thank you.
the back hugging and
If we wanted my grandparents to drop at dinner, we can tell them 6:30. Like if you're just at 6:30, we tell them 5.
It is what it is. I can't change
and will they take the stuff like she said behind got it. She's over there. I'll ask her. He doesn't know. He's just playing the game. Mike did that one. Best friend up in yeah. Wintertime, he's got those big smells on it. He said, I just thought it was a part way off there. So he decided to drink it. It wasn't just the brick company. Oh, and where he got it. So there was a person in it that said, as soon as she saw what happened, she's like, I think it's all. I gotta get this home. But, I mean, like, he kept moving. Probably should sit down somewhere though, so you're not going to have to.
If you want me to play later, just give me the sign.
What's the song? What's this line?
You don't get to lean back because when I turn the camera to the podium.
So you want me to move?
We might.
You told me to sit here, but I'll move. Move that way?
Yeah.
Can I get to mine? How does it still have No, well, he told me to move. No, you're fine where you are. He's just trying to make sure I just spot if you want to see better.
Yeah. If you lean back, you'll go right in front of the camera. That's all.
Right.
But where you are is good. I can prove it.
I just don't want to be in front of the camera.
I'm not quite ready to go live on the internet.
Are you sure I'm good there? If I don't move, I'm good. I'm one of my big fat head.
There you are.
Okay, so see how far I can go back.
I can see the hair. I will point out it is a live feed on the internet right now.
It is?
Yeah. You can pull out your phone, look at YouTube, Google Ron Eyben, and you will see your
voice. And voice.
Yes.
It's just that simple. We wouldn't have asked me to
You just keep walking back and forth.
Okay, so why don't we just, so you passed, this is yours lasts for like a millisecond. like, yeah, and then 26, you're getting 5.
Tea just splashed out of the hole in the cup into my eye. How does that happen? How does that even happen?
With you, I'd expect it.
Is in your way. Do you still see those flowers?
I can see it.
Like I don't remember what I'm supposed to do.
Hi everyone. Welcome. I'll give you just a couple seconds more to refresh your glasses and get seated. Let's drop this thing a little bit lower for the short person. How's that, Mom? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. This is my dad. Can you imagine growing up with this? It was kind of awesome. And we're going to get to a slideshow in a little while, and some of you may think that my dad was a bit of a closet crossdresser. Let me assure you, we don't think he was. But dressing up like a woman was easy, and it was the best way to get a laugh. So you're going to see a lot of that today. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm Rhonda Payne. I am the daughter and very proud namesake of Ron Eyben. On behalf of my mom, Dorothy, my brother, Michael, my sister-in-law, Hedda, my husband, Frank, and myself, Frank, stop crying. Thank you for coming to celebrate my dad's life. He was pretty awesome. Now listen, if you were thinking this was going to be a traditional celebration of life, you may want to go back and wait in your car. Some parts of this are going to feel more like a roast than like a funeral, so be prepared. But here's the thing. In the last couple of weeks of my dad's life, I had the absolute honor and pleasure of spending a significant amount of time with him. Because I had a broken ankle, so I was a bit of a captive audience. So I sat with him for hours, and I became clear, crystal clear, on how he wanted today to go. So I need your help with that. He wants a party. He wants us to celebrate, to laugh, to sing, to tell funny stories. And he was very clear with those instructions. So there may be some off-color jokes, there may be a couple of strange comments, but keep in mind, that's what he wants. And it hurts a lot, that our guest of honor isn't in the room. But I am certain that Daddy, yes, I call him Daddy, I have my whole life, and I will continue until the day I die. He's gathered up good friends and family in front row seats, and he is going to watch and make sure that I follow through on the promise that I made him, and that we are all here to celebrate his life and how he lived. This afternoon is going to be pretty informal. You guys know my dad was not much for formalities. He was a pretty informal guy. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about my dad's life. I'm going to read you some things in his own words. I am such a lucky girl. A few years ago, I recognized that there were stories that when he passed away, were going to pass away with him. So I gave him a book of questions, and he answered them. So I'm going to read his own words, some of those answers. You're going to love it. After that, we're going to have a slideshow. And again, I am so thankful that we are a family that takes a lot of pictures. We're thousands of pictures, but I managed to go through them. I want to thank Dave Wilson for his beautiful piping when you all came in. We're going to have a break after the slideshow, and at that time, Hazel Copeland is going to play some of my dad's favorite songs, some songs they played together. We'll have some refreshments. And then after the break, we're going to have an open mic, which my Uncle Neil is going to kick off. We'll have a couple of words from Rick Unger, the president of the car club my dad so loved. And then I'm going to welcome you to honor my dad and tell some funny, lighthearted stories, because I can't tell them all. Trust me, I would love to be up here for hours and talk about my dad, because I don't have much of a more favorite subject. But you all have great funny stories too, and so we want to hear them. As my Uncle Norman said to me a couple of days ago, we can laugh while we're crying, right? While I was working on my speech, I thought about how we all tend to feel our own relationship with someone is the most important. My brother and I, we might think that being my dad's children was the most important relationship. My mom might think being his wife was the most important relationship. Dave might think being his best friend was the most important. My Auntie Irene might think that being his sister was the most important. Guess what? You're right. We're all the most important, because my dad gave us permission to be selfish in how he loved us. He made us feel as though we were each the most important person in the world. And only a truly special person can make everybody feel that way. So, here's to you, Daddy. I hope you enjoy your party. Herman Ronald Eyben was born in 1938. Bet you some of you didn't know his first name was Herman. But his dad's was too, so he went by his middle name. He was Ronald, Ronnie, Ron. Sometimes he had other personas. You'll see proof of that in the slideshow a little later. He was born at home just outside Vermilion, Alberta, to Jenny and Herman, and he was the baby of the family. And I think that was a big reason why family was so important to him. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. He may or may not have confessed in his notes to me that Auntie Irene was his favorite sibling. I don't feel really terrible about confessing that, because as one of 4 boys with 1 sister, I'm thinking that all those boys felt the same way. And on that note, I want to sincerely thank my late Uncle Albert, my Uncle Norman, my Auntie Irene, and my Uncle Neil for helping to make my dad such an amazing person and for being an integral part of our family. Thank you to you and your families for supporting us while you too grieved. And thank you for being here today, for sharing, and just for being a part of everything that my dad was. Growing up the youngest of 5 kids, music was already in the Eyben family long before my dad made it there. And just imagine baby Ronnie hopping and bopping as his dad and siblings played along. Let me tell you about that. Did you hear about the band we had back in Alberta? I was too young, but have many fond memories of that. Dad, Grandpa, played the fiddle. Irene played the piano. Albert played guitar and banjo. Neil played drums. Norman played fiddle and spoons. Uncle Buster, Grandma's brother, Jerry Harl's dad, played sax. Sometimes Uncle Henry joined. On the prairies, they used to have dances in the schools every month or so, and sometimes it would be in someone's barn or hayloft. People came for miles. I remember one time hoisting the piano up into our hayloft with the hay lift rigging. We had a poor little calf that didn't get sleep all night. These things used to go most of the night. I tried to learn the piano then, but couldn't grasp music. Still don't. Even learned by ear myself about 15. He's really understating it. He knew how to play the piano.
Yeah.
Yes, most of it sounded like honky tonk. It didn't matter what it was. But he still couldn't read the music. But he could play. In time, my grandpa grew dissatisfied with life on the prairies, and after a vacation to the coast, he auctioned off what Daddy describes as a poor man's grain farm. Is that a good description? Does that make sense? Okay, I'm getting a nod from family. But that auction, when you auction things off, back then that meant the house, the land, the barns, and everything with it. Sorry, I keep scooping back and forth here. I gotta pick up my notes. So the question to my dad had been, what was your first pet? Tell me about them. But this translated into the auction story. We had dogs and cats from as far back as I can remember. As far as breed, we didn't really care. I think my first dog was a Spitz, ? Of course, when we left the farm, nothing came with us. So we got a new dog when we came to Surrey. His name was Shep. The day of the auction sale, we had to ride our horses around the auction block. When Ginger was sold, I climbed up into the hayloft to have a good cry, only to meet Norman up there doing the same thing. Our dog at that time was a collie mutt. Can't remember his name, but it will come to me. We left him at Uncle Buster and Auntie Rose's. That's Jerry Harl's parents. We came back for a visit 3 years later, and that dog was all over me, licking and barking. Who says animals forget? So when I talked to Uncle Norman about that story, he told me he had to do a demo of his horse team at that auction. Talk about adding insult to injury. Apparently when he was done, he threw his gear down, and that's when he headed on up to the loft. The family came to the coast. They eventually settled on Fraser Highway in Surrey, and that house stood until really not that long ago. The last time I drove through, I saw they'd finally torn it down. Throughout life there as a teen, and in his adulthood, my dad struggled off and on with his weight. He didn't think he was the most attractive guy, which I think is crazy. My dad was handsome. But that feeling in himself of not feeling like he was terribly attractive, that led him to working on being funny and good-natured and just really being an all-around fun guy. He made friends easily, like his elementary school friend, Ron Gordon. This is them in their young adulthood. So apparently, I got a story from Ron Gordon's sister, Jean. Jean, are you here? Hi, I can't wait to meet you. So Jean tells me, via her youngest brother, Kelly, that the two Rons became the best of friends due to my dad's exceptional feats of flexibility. I couldn't find the picture. I know this picture exists, doesn't it? Mom, don't we have a picture? She's shaking her head. I know we have a picture, but I couldn't find it. My dad used to be able to put both his feet behind his head. Yes, at the same time. And even when he was in hospice and in the hospital, he would sit in the strangest positions. So he was flexible to the end. But imagine being a school-aged kid, sitting in your classroom and putting both your feet behind your head. So I guess Ron Gordon was impressed with this and told Daddy so. From that point on, they were the best of friends. So I guess you could say my dad was an extrovert. I'm going to let him tell you about that. I always searched for friends as a boy. I made many friends then and now. My parents always welcomed me in on conversations with their adult friends. I have always enjoyed good conversation. I was active in Fleetwood Hall, treasurer, bingo caller, vice president, and president. I carried that on in Clearbrook, being on the Chamber of Commerce executive, treasurer, VP, and president of Kiwanis. The Vintage Car Club was when more fun was imminent, and I went through all the positions again. Swap meets, car shows, and club events give me an opportunity to socialize. Extrovert? Yeah, I guess I am. It's kind of an understatement again. He was always eager for a laugh. He loved to be silly, and I told you before, he loved to dress up and get people going. He came by it honestly. That, my friends, is my Grandpa Eyben. So whether it was dressing up as a woman, a bunny, a hillbilly, a clown, or a cowboy, my dad was up for it. He just loved to have fun. He loved it. Anything that was fun. Recently, I heard a story from Bill Miller. Bill, where are you? Hello. So he'll remember telling me this story. So Daddy was in the hospital, he was in palliative, and Uncle Bill started telling this story, and if you know Bill Miller, you'll know that this may have been slightly embellished. But as I understand it, Bill and another friend had each driven down a hill, an icy hill in Surrey. It was the winter, obviously. And one wound up on one side in the ditch, and the other wound up in the other side in the ditch. And not willing to have my dad miss out on all this fun, when they saw him at the top of the hill, they made this motion, you know, steer the wheel hard. And so Daddy did, of course, and found himself in the ditch next to them. I'm not entirely sure how this is fun. They thought it was fun, so when I asked Daddy, I said, "Why did you do it?" He said, "For something to do." I waited until the end of the story, and I said, "Okay, so how did you get out of the ditch? You and all your friends, you're all in the ditch. How'd you get out?" He said, "I don't remember. That wasn't the important part." As a teen, he took a job with George Kelly at the service station next door to my grandparents, and that's where he grew to love cars. George was a good friend of my dad's, and he really inspired him to learn everything he could about fixing cars. I hate that picture. But in fact, George gave Daddy his first car, a 1929 Model A, which I don't have a picture of. But there with George, working on cars, he learned he could fix anything. Now, when it wasn't a car, the fixing methods could have been ever so slightly questionable. Sometimes it involved duct tape, sometimes it involved caulking, sometimes you just covered it over with a mirror. And a renovation project was never complete without a mirror wall, or a mirrored mantle, or a mirrored pillar, or all of the above. I think he thought putting mirrors up was easier than doing the drywall. And I guess, for a guy that had been in the glass industry as long as he had, probably was easier than doing the drywall. But he passed that on to us. My brother and I grew up believing that Dow Corning, which is a silicone brand, and PTI 800, which is a professional glass cleaner, were something everybody had in their house. We thought that these were staples in every single home. So the first time we went to somebody's house and saw Windex, We had no clue what that was. To this day, when I go to clean mirrors, and I'm using regular glass cleaner now, I still miss my can, my black can with the black lid of PTI 800. So fixing things and building things was clearly something he enjoyed. He was very creative. He even went through a flower arranging stage later in life. And the flowers on your table are inspired by that. And I ask you, please, if you like them, take 1 or 2 home. I don't need that many jars in my life. So please help yourselves as you go. There was always a project going on at our house. He built a massive rec room in our first home. Who remembers that rec room? Who was there? Okay, I think, Michael, and I'm looking at you because I can't remember for sure. I think it was 40 feet by 15 feet. Is that right?
50 by 15.
50 by 15. Okay, so this rec room was lined with the wood from the packing crates from the glass shop. It was amazing. And as a kid, let me tell you, it fit a storage room, it fit a large living room, and it fit a pool table. And you know how sometimes people cram pool tables into their houses and there's not enough room to have the cube?
Bar.
And oh yeah, that's right, there was a bar too. We had a bar in there too, I forgot about that. There was more than enough room for the proper pool table in this house. It was amazing. It was just awesome. He built a pool in our house in Abbotsford. Okay, who helped with that? Who helped put the swimming pool in? Okay, long project. The guys that dug the hole didn't dig it deep enough. I think it was 8 inches too shallow, so it was done in clay. So out came the shovels and the pickaxes to make sure that that thing got down. And it was the rainiest June ever. It was pretty bad. But he was never afraid to ask for help, and that pool was a project that needed it. He then knocked out a wall between a bedroom and a bathroom to make a palatial bathroom in the house that has a fireplace. And most recently, he built a garage with a shop on the side of the house. In his teen years, these important elements like knowing how to fix things and build things were deeply instilled in him. And that came along with what I think of as my dad's core passions: fishing, cars, music, and most importantly,
silicone.
Silicone, my brother says. Family. When it comes to fishing, we spent many summers at Duncan Cove and Pender Harbor, and the tagline for that resort was, "Drunk or sober, we fish all over." That's where vacation was for Daddy. He'd pack us up and we'd spend 2 weeks swimming, fishing, sitting around the campfire telling stories. We often took other people with us. We did that for years. How many years did we go? Do you get any idea? Mom's just shaking her head. No, it was years. We went many years, and it was awesome. But fishing didn't start off as an easy hobby for my dad. He started with Grandpa. Down on the Fraser River, neither one of us knew what we were doing or what we were fishing for. Grandpa didn't know how to cast or what to use for bait, weights, etc. So we just put a worm on a hook with a bolt tied on for weight and swung it over our heads like a lasso. We peeled out line from the reel first and laid it on the ground, so invariably it would end up wound around your legs. Sometimes with the hook up on shore behind you. Must have been quite a sight. No one else around us, I recall. Thank God we got better, eh? And better he did. Sometime after he learned to fish, he met my mom Dorothy in Surrey, and as the story goes, they saw each other, they liked each other, they went to a dance, then a little over 2 months later, yes, I said 2 months, 2 months, they were married. Mom, I'm getting the numbers fired out at here. Mom and Daddy then adopted Michael, and a few years later they adopted me. It was important to both of them to have a family, to do things together. And I swear, if kids got to pick dads out, they couldn't have done any better. Need a minute? Hang on.
Deep breath, Rhonda.
He's telling me to suck it up right now. Ah. Yeah, I would have picked him every time. Every time. So family vacations were important to us as a family. And being active was something that was important to Daddy. He loved water skiing. My mom tells me the only time you'd see him on 2 skis was when he was getting ready to drop one. He loved to slalom ski, just loved it. And I remember, I think the last time I saw him slalom, he was probably close to 50. And he didn't go as far as maybe he would have liked to, but it was awesome for me to watch him. He still didn't go off the shore, he didn't go off the dock, he came up out of the water. The hardest way to get up on skis, but he could do it. We used to go camping at Penticton before you were born, and Michael was just a baby. I used to water ski on a slalom from Skaha Beach, Penticton to OK Falls and back every morning around 7 a.m. Sure worked up an appetite for bacon and eggs cooked on a camp stove. Daddy continued working in the glass business, taking a job in management, and moving the family from Surrey to Abbotsford. He saw his co-workers like Mel McAllister and Mel, thank you for coming and saying hi earlier, and Gay Asif. He saw them as friends, and thereby as family. I suppose in a lot of cases, that may not have been the way to run a business, and he'll tell you so himself. I always had to be friends with the people I worked with. Not necessarily the best qualification by a lot of big company standards, but fortunately for me, was welcomed in the TCG, that's Trans-Canada Glass, group, as it stemmed from a mom and pop group that welcomed close relationships within the branch members. I worked with Mel in the trade for many years before I hired him to be part of my branch family. As a co-worker, my relationship with Gay spoke for itself. I treated all my employees on an even footing, leaving the line of communication friendly yet commanding. My door was always open, and I liked to work in the field alongside my guys, and they all respected that. Particularly when we used to get emergency call-outs at 2 a.m. in the morning to do a big plate or close in a store a car drove through or whatever. We used to have an emergency line in our house, and it would ring at all hours of the night, and it wasn't far from my bedroom. So I know how many times that darn thing rang, and it was annoying. It didn't bother him any. You can see the Buick in the 2 upper shots. And that mannequin, I think Mom and I may have just thrown out the last part of that mannequin. She's been around for a long time. But I think sometimes his humor and practical joking might not have felt a lot like friendship. I remember him coming home one winter day telling us that his right-hand person, Gay, had complained that the toilet seat in the ladies' room was cold. In fact, and pardon the language, but the exact words were, "Jesus Christ, that toilet seat's cold." Not willing to miss an opportunity for a laugh, my dad went out and found a piece of very plushy pink carpeting. He cut it into an oval, cut a circle in the middle of it, and set it in place. But he couldn't let it go at just that. He found one of the company decals and attached it to the mirror behind the toilet. And it said, "At Speedy we care." That kind of humor existed in the strangest places. Do you guys remember when your organ donor status was a sticker on the back of your license? It was a little sticker that said, "Yes, I am an organ donor." So again, Daddy really had to take that a step further. Next to the sticker, he put a little note, and it read, "Be careful what you take. Some parts work better than others." When Daddy retired, he and Mom drove across Canada, coast to coast. I remember him telling me how much he liked the people. It was the Easterners he liked the most, because they were the most like us Westerners. So while my dad loved the scenery, what it came down to was people. Oh, but don't get me wrong, he liked his stuff. But I think that was because of the human connection that came with stuff. He knew it was just stuff, but he loved his stuff. I remember being about 10 years old and him taking me out for the afternoon. We went to a piece of land not far from the house, and it was the most run-down cabin ever, if you could call it a cabin. It was a shack, and I don't know how the old man that lived there hadn't burned it down. He had a cot and the precursor to a Coleman camp stove, not even a hot plate because he didn't have electricity. And Daddy was in paradise. There was crap everywhere. And we were there for hours. It was way too long for a 10-year-old to be entertained. But I knew I'd met my match. So somehow I managed to amuse myself in between him bantering with the fellow that lived there and holding up some item to say, Rhonda, do you know what this is? Or he'd hold up another item and he'd say, Grandma used to have one of these on the prairie. I have no idea what this stuff was. But the worldly things or the glamorous things were never as important to him. Like his hair. His hair wasn't that important to him. I asked him. The question was, how did you feel about losing your hair? No biggie. I guess I always felt lucky I had it as long as I did. Bald is an Eyben trait, and you can't fight it. Never had the greatest hair anyways. As I've mentioned, family was the most important thing to my dad. At family reunions, which is where this photo is taken, is at a family reunion, Michael and I would find ourselves pulled into some conversation. It would be about someone we met when we were 5, and this was the brother's cousin of that person. Michael and I would smile and nod, knowing that we would never, ever recognize that person ever again, and that the conversation would happen again at the next reunion. But I'm so glad my dad did that. I'm glad he made family so integral to us. Because now, as I get older, I find myself asking my distant relatives who they're related to, so I can make the same connections my dad was making for me. He stayed active through retirement, even working as a handyman for others. He helped my husband Frank out at a number of jobs. He just loved to keep busy. Sometimes busier than when he worked a regular job. And as I mentioned, there was always a project going on at home. He was always positive. You know that from knowing him and from the words I've read you. Even as he went through cancer treatments, that positive attitude stayed intact. After his first radiation treatment, he phoned me when he got home. I expected him to have a nap. Isn't that what normal people do after a radiation treatment? Not Daddy. Honey, it's so cool. What's so cool, Daddy? The machine, it twists and turns and it moves all around you. It can get at you from any angle. And they even tattooed a dot on me so they know where to line it up next time. Then he went through his second round of radiation a couple of years later, and it was on his neck this time, so they had to keep his head perfectly still to line the machine up. I asked him if they tattooed his neck, and I received a response that was perhaps even more excited than his first round of radiation. No, this time they molded warm mesh over my face, and they'll use it to screw me to the table. I hope they let me keep it. Seriously, can you imagine being excited about this thing? It makes me claustrophobic thinking about it, and I'm not claustrophobic. But that's my dad, right there, right in this. Excited, willing, bringing out that inner 10-year-old. No matter what his age was, whether it was when he was 50, when he was 70, I always told people, yeah, my dad he's a 12-year-old trapped in a 78-year-old's body. That was my dad. And he looked at stuff like this from that perspective. It was something new, it was something cool, it was something to embrace. He always wanted to amaze us and make us laugh. And even after he passed away, he's still making us laugh. Mom and I recently found a bunch of rocks in the bottom of a can in his bathroom. Just rocks, randomly. We have no idea what they were there for or why they were there. And the can they were in looked suspiciously like something either Michael or I made and had at one point glued macaroni to and had it spray painted. Except for all the macaroni was gone and the spray paint was worn off. But here are these rocks. And Mom and I are looking at each other going, what's up with the rocks? I have no idea. And then, there's these. I know you can't see them at the back. But like many of men of his day, my dad had a thing for toothpicks. It's not a bad thing. It's just a consistent part of life with him. Even when he went into the hospital or hospice, I always knew the most important thing to pack for my dad was his toothpicks. So as we've been packing things away and preparing Mom to move, I've found toothpicks everywhere. And each time I find one, I pick it up and I say, Daddy, you dropped this.
him coming up wind, slow down some park boulevard. Looking good from head to foot. Great big pins and cables still. Just like that mobile with my old man behind the wheel. You could hardly even see him in all of that chrome. The man with the plan and a pocket comb. But every night it carried him home. And I could hear him saying, don't you give me no leeway. Girl, you must take my word. If there's a God up in heaven, he's got a silver thunderbird. You can keep your Eldorado. Man, the foreign car's absurd. Me, I wanna go down in a silver thunderbird. Got up every morning while I was still asleep. I remember the sound of him shuffling around. Right before the crack of dawn was when I heard him turn his motor on. And when I got up, they were gone. Down the road in the rain and snow, the man and his machine would go. Oh, the secrets that old car would know. Sometimes I hear him saying, don't you give me no leeway. Girl, you must take my word. If there's a God up in heaven, he's got a silver thunderbird. You can keep your Eldorado, and the foreign car's absurd. Me, I wanna go down in a silver thunderbird. Down the road in the rain and snow, the man and his machine would go. All the secrets that old car would know. Sometimes I hear him saying, don't you give me no leeway. Girl, you must take my word. If there's a God up in heaven, he's got a silver thunderbird. You can keep your Eldorado, and the foreign car's absurd. Me, I wanna go down in a silver thunderbird. Me, I wanna go down in a silver thunderbird.
She said,
Well, I ain't afraid of dying. It's the thought of being dead. I wanna go on being me. Watch my ankles even. Don't spread my ashes out to sea. Don't lay me down to rest. You can put my mind beneath if it's my last request. Me up beside the jukebox if I die.
I'll just leave that one up. So let's take about a 15-minute break. Oh, sorry, forgot to turn that thing back. Let's take about a 15-minute break, and then I'll come back, bring you back. We'll have open mic, which my Uncle Neil is going to kick off for us. We'll have Rick Unger, and then we've got some words from some folks that can't be with us today.
Remember me? Ryan?
Yes.
The night call guy?
Oh, yes.
Good fight.
Yeah, that was good.
So how's it going?
Keeping out of trouble.
Yeah?
Equipment.
What are you doing out there?
I work for a computer company that supports the computers in the hospital.
Awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Really happy with those.
No, after
I know, right?
I worked with Speedy in Vancouver for a while, and then we decided to part ways, and I bounced around and ended up worked for myself for a while doing the railing.
Okay, yeah.
But then I got a job with one of the computer companies, and I just followed that through.
Oh, okay. Good. Have you seen Lau much? Or?
I probably haven't seen him in about 4 or 5 years.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's bouncing around too. He's working for Fraser Way.
Yeah, that's the last place I ran.
Yeah, now he's not working there anymore.
Okay.
He's working for Perm Acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what he's doing.
I can't say I've been bouncing because I've been with this place for 15 years now.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty good run so far.
Yeah, I just put my time in. I'm doing it. I'm probably about 29, 30 years. Probably be a light there for retirement. Nowhere else though.
I can pull it off. I will retire from where I'm working now.
Yeah. There's nowhere else to go right now, so we're up at age point. Got the benefits, but the company gold practice.
You don't have to tell me. This reminds Speedy Autodots gave me good training for the current political trip. No, I work for a company that has more corporate politics than even Speedy.
Yeah.
A little place called IBM.
Yeah, there's politics. Oh yeah, it's politics everywhere, right? So just to have your line up like this to have your mom.
Michael, can you see me? Come closer.
Just from here up.
Hi everybody, we'll be back in a sec. We're just having a quick break. See you in a bit.
You're Rhonda. Hi. Good job.
I like to have your mom.
You lived in Lakewood? Yes, I remember. We graduated together from that doctor medicine right there. And he was telling me that I was having trouble with the main bridge, and I know
more iced tea, so maybe
And he did a real good job.
Where now? You know, my mom is right here in the coral. I need to find the sheet. Because I know Dennis brought her. There she is. Yeah, well, you know, I'd love to see him. We've got a couple on the table.
I can sing better than my
Yeah, for sure. How you been keeping? Good?
Keeping out of trouble.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
What are you doing now?
Okay, check this out.
Fix all the computers for all the hospitals in all over the province.
That's a big job.
I can assure you there's a few of us.
Yeah, sure.
That was a special scene. That's hilarious. So where's she next to be?
Fortunately, he provided a lot of media to go through.
Yes, for sure. Well, Frank and I are talking about once we get moving into different things. Yeah, I'm sad. This is not a vacation experience. Yeah, I just need more motion and beaches and just like exactly.
The hillbilly one, yeah.
That was with Bruce McDonald's car.
Yeah.
We didn't use that, but that would have been about 15 or 16.
Yeah. 16, 17. So we're a couple years older.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Oh my. How's your mom doing? Good?
Between being upset and denial. We've got everything in place. Cleaning up the house and selling.
Where's she moving to?
It's a place called Harrison Point in Lang.
Oh, okay.
Assisted care facility. Absolutely wonderful.
It's right across the street from my
Right behind there.
Oh, okay. I've got friends that are in there. They love it.
Yeah.
They go in kind of kicking and screaming and want to get in there. It turns out of the house. Oh, we got one guy that we used to go pick up for coffee all the time. And it's now got to the point that he can't go in certain times because he doesn't want to miss out on crib or this or that, you know, and it's just, no, he's
I've seen the ones my grandma went into. A friend was looking for them and we went with him as well a couple weeks ago. And he had the best observation. Yes, it is a place where there's a lot of old people. They're all engaged. Yeah, they're not sitting in the chairs.
they're out doing stuff,
They're
right?
doing stuff and there's
Bus trips here, there, and everywhere. It's awesome. They got a movie theater there too, and that, you
they do
know.
carpet bowling, bingo.
if you want people to come in and do your housekeeping, they'll come in and they'll clean your room, clean your bedding.
They do the bedding and they vacuum and clean once a week. You wash your clothes.
It's awesome. Yeah. Your meals, if you want all the meals, you can go down for the meals.
And if you don't, they'll bring it to your room. Or you can tell them you don't need it tonight. You got a kitchen, you can do what you want.
Yeah. No, it's a nice facility, really.
I don't recognize very many people, but then I know.
Very well run, you know.
That's awesome.
It's terrible, but it doesn't smell like most people.
No.
Daughter's friend Lisa she went to the writer's degree. So, yeah, she's doing a great job, and Dad is a great guy.
I'm just going to get you to move for a second. I'm going to...
Absolutely.
You did good. All right, take care.
We have a... this cake?
And I remember Pam, little and he remember the mask walking by and I was sitting there like, yeah, but it was like
my boobs in the shot.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. Okay, and the line is so I can bring it back to
Oh, really?
Yeah. Want me to go fetch a quick around? I haven't seen anything like this.
Thank you.
Space, but also for putting the food together with your beautiful team and for answering all my questions. Yeah, Diane, you just did a wonderful job. Thank you so much. So of course, nobody minds if we keep this goofy ass picture up, right? No. Right, so we're going to kick off the open mic portion, and I'm going to invite my Uncle Neil to come up first, and he's going to get us started. After Uncle Neil, Rick Unger is going to say a few words on behalf of the Car Club, and then I'm going to say a few words from a couple of people that were out of town, and we're going to open it up to all your amusing Ron stories.
Thank you, Rhonda. Rhonda, you are one tough act to follow. I had a lot of things that I wanted to say, and you pretty well wiped me out. Anyway, I'm really happy to see all the people from the Vintage Car Club here. I love the display up front, and I want to thank you for bringing those specialty automobiles over here in memory of Ron. I'm sure he's upstairs in the clouds looking down and admiring all the metal out there. I first will just say that I've known Ron for 78 years. And there's only two other people in this room that can match that, my sister Irene, my brother Norman. And when Ron graduated from North Surrey High School, he did odd jobs. He worked at Kelly's Garage, and he had a milk booth, and he worked at the Bruce Brown's store in produce. And I had opened up a shop in Prince George, and I transferred a couple of my employees up there. So I phoned Ron up and I said, how would you like to come and join me in the glass business? He said, well, first question, what do you pay? And I said, well, you're going to have to start out as an apprentice. It's a 4-year program. And I told him what the number was. He wasn't too happy about it, but he called me back in about an hour. And he said, when can I start? And I said, how about Monday? So he started working for me in New Westminster. And it's a 4-year apprentice program. And after his 3rd year, he was in charge of one of my crews for working out of town. He was a craftsman, a real tradesman. He caught onto the glass business and aluminum fabricating like he was meant to be there. So as the time progressed, we were doing a lot of work in downtown Vancouver, and he just hated driving into the city. So we bought a little company in Abbotsford called Valley Glass. It was owned by Calvin Johnson. So he come to me and he said, you need a journeyman for Valley Glass up in Abbotsford. I said, yeah. I said, I need a journeyman, but I need a little more than that. I said, I need a manager. And I said, you haven't done any office work, but you're very good with helping with the estimating that. So we give him a crash course on blueprint reading and estimating and the office procedure. And I give him a 6-month trial period. Well, he fit right in. Within a year, he wanted to put an addition on the shop. He was doing jobs. In fact, he was sneaking jobs from our shop in New Westminster. We caught him in there a couple of times. I said, well, it's an Abbotsford contract. Well, I said, you're supposed to stay out in the Fraser Valley. When he was in New Westminster, he started a Trans-Canada Glass fishing derby over at Pender Harbor. And it became an annual event. It was started as a lark. I think there was maybe 5 or 6 people at the first one. And that carried on for many years until the fish ran out there. So he came to me one day. I had taken my 2 sons up to the Queen Charlotte Islands fishing, and we went through the Oak Bay Marine Group, and if you caught a 50-pound salmon, you got a cap that called you a master fisherman. So he said, I'd like one of those master fisherman caps like you got. When can we go up to the Queen Charlotte's? I said, well, whenever you want to go. I said, just let me know and we'll make arrangements. So the second day out, he thought he had his 50-pounder. He caught a spring salmon, like they're deep like this. He couldn't wait to get back into the dock to weigh it. And we were I just run away from where we were staying on the motor vessel Mirabel. So it was the last week of May. It wasn't that hot, but he kept looking at this fish in the bag, and he said, it's going to dry up. He said, put some water on it. And I said, no, I'll put some water on it. So after about half an hour, took his t-shirt off, put it over the fish, and started pouring water on it because he was scared it wasn't going to make 50 pounds. Unfortunately, when we got into the dock, he was really disappointed. It was 46 pounds. He was 4 pounds light of the 50-pounder. So that was a time that Ron and I really enjoyed. We fished together, trout fished, we salmon fished. I was going to not tell this story, but I think it should be told. The last time I went fishing with Ron, he was quite ill, and we went up to the Fraser River. The sockeye were running, and there was sockeye every place. So he bought a chair, and I sat him down in a chair beside the river, and I walked up the river a little bit, and I said, will you be okay here on your own? Oh yeah, he said, I'll be fine. So I came back, there was no Ron. The chair was there, that there was no Ron. So I went down the river a little bit, and here are these two guys. He had waded across a little tributary of the river. He said everybody was catching fish on the bar down there. He went down, he got 2 sockeye, he stuck them through the gills with his fishing rod, and he was coming back through this tributary, and he fell down, he couldn't get up. And I thought I had lost him. These 2 guys come along in a Jeep, they picked him out of the river, and they'd taken him down to their campfire. That's when I couldn't. I've never told that story before, but he was so intent on getting 2 sockeye, he damn near drowned in the riverboat. Anyway, to carry on, I won't make this last too long. There's just one other thing I'd like to say about Ron. He was my bestest friend. I spent more hours with Ron in my lifetime than the rest of my family together. And we enjoyed each other's company, and I will truly really miss him. My best friend. Thank you. Now if someone else would like to take the mic, please feel free to come up. Rick, do you want to come up now?
Hi, I'm Rick Unger, the current president of the Central Fraser Valley chapter of the Vintage Car Club of Canada. I don't have an interesting fish story or even too much humor, but I have a few things to say that I thought were important about Ron. I'd first like to say it's my distinct honor to say a few words in memory of Ron on behalf of his many friends and all the members of the car club. Membership in the club and all that included was very important to Ron and Dorothy. They became members in the very first year that the club was formed, 1982. And I, as well as Earl Smith and Ray Woodman from the club, felt very special to be able to present them with their 35-year membership bars a few weeks before Ron's passing while at Holmberg House. So that meant so much to not only my friends and I, but to Ron and Dorothy. Ron was always a very active member, and I have that in capital letters in my notes. He was a president of the chapter, much like what was said earlier by Rhonda about his commitment to other organizations. He jumped in with both feet. And in recent years, he took on projects such as a prize-winning float in the Canada Day Parade for Abbotsford. And along with Rhonda, promotion of our 5 successful country car shows at the Otter Co-op, and even providing the musical entertainment. As weak as he was, he needed help getting the equipment out of his car and set up, but Ron was there playing. I think it was last year, it might have been the year before. And for many years, despite his failing health, he ensured that we always had a guest speaker or some form of entertainment at our monthly business meetings. Ron also had strong feelings and opinions on the business of running the club. I recall him speaking up at meetings on topics important to him. And in my time on the executive, he was known to let us know when things were going well or not. That was Ron, because it was important to him. He was willing, and as was said over and over earlier, he was always willing to help someone from the club who asked or needed help. And personally speaking, whether it was questions about auto glass or spending an afternoon along with his beautiful Buick Skylark at my son's Jeff's wedding, he was certainly generous with his time. He will be missed but not forgotten by those in the chapter who were fortunate to have him as a friend. To Dorothy, I hope you are able to maintain the friendships that you have within the club. And I'm pleased to let you know that Rhonda and Frank have joined the chapter. So we get to carry on some of Ron's traditions and family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. I know the last two things that were said may have brought light to some things that you might not have known about my dad in his last months, and he did grow weaker. But I think what I'd like for all of us to take away, and I know Uncle Neil made this point, and Rick as well, is the strength of his spirit. And I just want to tell you just a brief story from me, that we were sitting on his and Mom's bed, and he hadn't been eating a lot at that point, and we were having a picnic on his bed, because I knew that eating with me would help him to eat a little bit, so we were having a picnic. And he just believed that if we could get things sorted out, he'd be okay. And he and I talked about that a bit, and I'm like, yeah, if we can get this heart thing sorted out, and we can get this diabetes thing sorted out, you'll be fine. And he looked at me with a big grin on his face, and he said, yeah, but you know, you and I are the only ones that think that. And I said, so? Isn't that okay? He's like, yeah, it's okay. And then even when he went into hospice, and if you're, I don't know if you're familiar with the hospice process, but when you go into hospice, there's no more testing, and there's not a lot of exploration anymore. They allow people to just be comfortable and not be hooked up to IVs and things like that. So when he went into hospice and his body sort of rallied a little bit, and all of a sudden he had a bit of appetite. And he phoned me one day, because he always had his cell phone with him. Always had his cell phone in hospice. And he phoned me one day and he said, hey, guess what? And I'm like, what? I had oatmeal for breakfast. I'm eating. Anything's possible. I didn't have the heart to tell him, you know you're in hospice, right? But that was my dad. So I'd like to read something that comes from Bill Gay and his wife Sandra, who used to live next door to my mom and dad, and they were great neighbors. Bill and his wife are in England right now, so they couldn't join us. They might be on the live feed, I'm not sure. And Bill, if you're watching, hi, I'm going to read your piece now. Good day. My name is Bill Gay, and my wife Sandra and I were Ron and Dorothy's neighbors and friends for some 25 years. Unfortunately, we can't be here today to share in the celebration of Ron's life. We are presently in London, England, but we'll be sure to raise a glass and drink a toast to Ron's memory this evening. As I said, we were Ron's neighbors across the big green hedge, and when we first moved into our house those many years ago, we were hopeful that we would have good neighbors. Boy, did we luck out. We could not have asked for two nicer people to be our neighbors. Ron and Dorothy have always been so kind and generous, and Ron was always willing to help out with anything. Our kids were always invited to come over for a swim in the pool on those hot summer days, and we could always count on each other if we needed help with anything. As I wrote this, I was thinking about all the things we did together as neighbors, helping each other out. We built retaining walls, fences, fixed cars, built decks and railings, moved sheds, trimmed hedges, painted fences, replaced windows, watched each other's houses and pets when we went on vacation, went fishing together, and just generally liked to tinker around fixing stuff. We always seemed to have a project on the go. As the infamous Red Green once said, if you ain't handsome, you gotta be handy. Although that reference is more for me, as we all know Ron was a handsome devil. See? I think part of our bond was that we were handy guys that liked to get our hands dirty, and when Rick and Shelley moved in across from Ron and Dorothy, it was like the three amigos. As Rick was also a handy guy and helped out in many of the projects we got ourselves involved in. I always think of Ron as the MacGyver before there was MacGyver. I'm not sure if it was just a natural curiosity or whether he was just too damn cheap to buy something. But if something broke,
But if something broke, he would always have the ability to take it apart, figure out if it was repairable, jury-rig some kind of fix, and apply the MacGyver magic to make it work again. Oh my gosh, Michael, are you like... Oh, this is so my dad. If I ever needed to borrow a tool, it was simply a matter of walking over to Ron's garage, and he could usually produce the tool, socket, drill, or nuts and bolts I needed. Some of the memories I have of Ron was when Ron, Rick, and I decided to tackle the hedge trimming around Ron's driveway. There we were in a work-safe approved box on the end of an extended forklift, high in the air with chainsaws hacking down the hedge. Another time we went fishing on the Fraser, and when we launched the boat into the water, the engine wouldn't start, and we started drifting down the river, which was flowing pretty well at the time. I had this vision of us drifting all the way from Chilliwack to Mission. So there I was with the oar out, trying to keep us in a straight line while Ron pulled the gas line and tinkered with the motor. As usual, MacGyver worked his magic, and eventually we got it running. Another time we were cruising along the Fraser when we came to a screeching halt as we ran aground on a hidden sandbar. Luckily, we and the engine sustained no damage, and we pushed ourselves off the bank and were back on our way. When Ron retired from Speedy, he became the proud owner of a new digital camera, and I became his proud technical assistant. And see, I'm going to burst out laughing again because I haven't read this before. This is hilarious. As handy as Ron was, he didn't grow up in the age of the internet. He had a late start, so sometimes it was a little challenging for him when it came to things like getting his pictures off his camera or setting up his TV. Every once in a while I'd get the phone call, "Bill, when you have a moment, can you come over and show me how to get the pictures off my camera again?" And in all fairness to Ron, as some of you will know, there are numerous ways to transfer pictures from your camera, along with multiple programs willing to help you transfer, categorize, and organize your pictures. So even for someone technically competent, it can be challenging. Anyhow, Ron did eventually pick it up and took many photos of their vacations and emailed many a picture or joke to his friends and family. In closing, I would just like to say it was a true honor and privilege to call Ron our friend and neighbor. We think of him often and miss his smiling face. Until we meet again, happy trails, Ron. Your friends, Bill and Sandra. So I invite you, if you have a humorous, engaging, lively story about my dad, please come on up.
Give it your all.
Just a few things, but I have to read them. My memory isn't as good as it used to be. But then nothing's as good as it used to be. But anyway, Dorothy, Rhonda, Frank, Michael, Hedda, extended family, friends. Today we mark the passing of Ron Eyben. We're here not only to mourn, but to remember and to celebrate his accomplishments and the friendship we enjoyed. Now, we were all children of the Depression. And everybody knows, well, no, not everybody knows, but those kids do know what the Depression was all about. It was about sacrifice. It was about going without. But everybody was in the same boat, so all our neighbors were. We understood what was going on. Anyway, Ron had other interests that he pursued with the same vigor and talent that he exhibited with the piano. Because Ron, I don't think ever saw a piano he didn't like. But his dedication and success with restoring and driving antique cars is well known to those who shared his passion. He was a dedicated collector of various items. And if that wasn't enough, he was an excellent craftsman who designed and finished a number of home renovations, among other things. For over 30 years, Ron was the manager of Trans-Canada Glass here in Abbotsford. Booker T. Washington once noted, "The world cares very little about what a man knows. It is what a person is able to do that counts." Ron was a doer. We knew Ron not only as an accomplished musician and entrepreneur, but appreciated him for his personality, his positive attitude, his jokes, and his self-depreciating good humor, his kibitzing, and his obvious caring for his fellow man. He was a man without guile or egotism. He gave of himself without asking for anything in return. In short, he was genuine. He was the genuine article. While talking to him sometime after he'd been diagnosed with cancer, it was obvious to all that he still maintained his positive outlook and his sense of humor. With the loss of a friend, we are ourselves diminished. For what is life without the encouragement and closeness of friends? We share the story of Dorothy, Michael, and Rhonda and the rest of the extended family as we mourn Ron's passing. But we also celebrate his accomplishments and especially his friendship. I'd like to leave you with a quote from that famous author Robert Louis Stevenson. It goes as follows: "That man is a success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who leaves the world better than he found it, who looked for the best of others and gave the best he had. Ron Eyben was such a man." He will be sorely missed by all who will be privileged to know him. I'm sure you all agree.
Hi, y'all. I'm Ron's older brother, Norman. I know a lot of you here, but I don't know you all. Ron was a laugh all his life. He came up, we built a golf course up in Farmington, up by Dawson Creek, and Ron came to that opening, and he had built himself a golf cart. Now, if you could think of the laughter in his eyes when he's building it, never mind when he paraded himself in front of everybody. But the day of the opening, Ron was out there and he had this golf cart. It had plywood wheels. It had an old piece of ready rod for an axle. He had an old golf bag tied onto it. And in that golf bag was an old rusty shotgun. There was an old broom. There was a paddle. There was a big piece of tarp in case it's rained, sticking out of the bag. And Ron walked up the front of the golf course, into the office, right up to the till. He said, "I'd like to get a tea time, please." And the girl behind the counter, she just looked at him and she started to laugh. And he says, "You find me funny?" And everybody in the clubhouse was looking at him, and they were all starting to laugh. And he says, "Can I get a tea time?" And she said, "Well, certainly I can give you a tea time." Well, I was standing right there, and I said, "No." I said, this gentleman golfs for nothing." Ron looked at me and he says, "Thank you, sir." And he pulled that golf cart back out to the tee box, and he was going to tee off with what he had. But the joke had all passed, and everybody in that clubhouse wanted to know who the hell this guy was that could come in there with an outfit like this and expect to get a tee time. Anyway, I won't take up any more of your time. I just thought I had to throw that in there because I thought maybe Rhonda forgot it herself. No?
Picture in the slideshow?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, it was in there. It was
You know? No, it was a real laugh. Anyway, and thanks, folks.
Can I invite anyone else who would like to come up and tell this story? Hazel. Oh dear.
I don't have a story. Earth-shattering.
Well, if it's about Daddy, it's always earth-shattering.
Well, how lucky were the Copelands to meet the Eybens. So we had many good times together, and of course Ron and I had the privilege of playing for a couple of the car shows when they first started. Darn near froze to death. I think we had to have gloves on, toques, and the whole 9 yards. And we had a good time when we had oh, now I'm going to forget what I was going to say. When we went and got our prizes for winning at the parade in Abbotsford. So we always had a good time together. And Ron and I had fun playing music at his house. One would play the piano, the other played the keyboard. And he was a great guy. I can't tell you how many times he worked at our place. Any project that George had in his mind, Ron was there to do it. A new front door, patio at the front door, a new railing at the front door, a new carpet in my music room, new windows in my music room. So now after those windows were taken out, like I think all men like to do, we have to keep them. So these great big 5x5 windows sat out behind a tree. And so I decided it was time one day to get rid of them, so I phoned up Speedy Glass. And I asked if they could pick them up and take them, and I said, I mentioned Ron Eyben. He said, Ron Eyben doesn't work here. I said, I know he doesn't, but he bought the windows there. So for $80, I got rid of those windows. And several weeks later, George said, oh, so what happened to those windows? Oh, well, I got tired of looking at them, so I sold them to Speedy's Glass bought them for $80. He was going to make something out of it. Oh, good luck on that. But anyway, Ron was always there to help. So the funny thing was, Ron would go to out to Costco, and I would ask him to buy gallons of vinegar. So 4 gallons at a time. So after he delivered the second one, he said, boy, you sure must make a lot of pickles. He said, I've never seen anybody buy so much vinegar in my life. I said, it's not for making pickles, it's for doing laundry. Anyway, we had a great time together, and I'm glad that I got to know Ron and got to play music with him. And Ron, when did you break your foot?
February 26th.
February 26th.
Yes.
On that Thursday before that, that's when Ron asked if I would play here. And Rhonda picked out the songs. I said, someone, thank goodness, because one of them said, I can't stop loving you. And I thought, ooh, that may not go over too good. Anyway, Rhonda picked out the songs. He was a great guy, and I'm so glad I got to know him. And I'm playing his keyboard today. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. So I guess I should fess up about the broken ankle. So my mom hasn't heard the whole of this story, so I'm going to confess. When Daddy started to decline, I changed the ringtone on my phone to be a special ring. So his cell phone, their house phone, and the hospice all had the same ringtone on my phone. And we were away with our best friends up at Sun Peaks, and 5 out of the 6 of us skate. I don't skate. So I sat in the lodge, and we hung out, and it was our last night there, and the phone rang, and it was the special ring. And I normally had my phone with me at all times. Once Daddy started to deteriorate, I always had my phone with me, and I didn't have it with me. It was over on another table. And I panicked. I couldn't get to my phone, and we were sitting in an L-shaped couch, and I couldn't get past everybody's legs. So what did I do? I jumped up on a coffee table, and when I jumped down, my godson, well, they all watched it, but my godson tells me I hit the edge of a blanket on a tile floor, and I broke my ankle. I rolled it on the tile floor. The phone call was Mom. And she just wanted to know how things were going. So I broke my ankle over that. And I didn't want to tell her because I didn't want her to feel bad, but yes, that's how I broke my ankle. But as I've said, you know, life works in mysterious and wonderful ways, because that broken ankle made it so that I was
laid up,
confined. I spent a lot of time with Mom and a lot of time with Daddy, and so broken ankles sometimes aren't bad things. So Bill, I saw you coming. Where are you? I knew you wouldn't let an open mic pass.
So I just got one. I just got one. Bill Miller is my name, and I'm a friend of Ron's since 1949. And in 1950 or 51, and we were going to North Surrey High School, and Ron had an aneurysm operation or something on there. Huh?
A hernia.
A hernia, that was it. And Mrs. Eyben said, she asked me, would you mind picking Ron up and driving him to school and bringing him home because he's had this hernia operation, and I'm willing to pay you 25 cents each way. I said, I'd love that. I need some gas money. So she paid me 25 cents each way. But when I picked Ron up at the house in Fleetwood, I had to drive a little bit away, like towards Kelly's garage. And it had a gravity feed, no fuel pump. So somehow the gas lines were sort of plugged, and it needed some pressure from the gas tank filler cap, which was on the hood in front of the windshield on the Model A. So I said, Ron, if we want to get to school, there's only one way we can do it. You got to straddle yourself and lay on my hood and blow in where we put in the gas. So we did that every day, coming to school and going back home. I never did tell Mrs. Eyben, and I got 25 cents each way. Thank you very much.
Well, now you've got Grandma up in heaven having a fit. Do we have any more stories we'd like to share?
My name is Kathy, and I got to know Ron and Dorothy through joining the car club as well, and the rest of his family. They've been wonderful. And what I'd like to do is just thank Ron today for, Rhonda had mentioned his inner 12-year-old. Well, he's passed that on to several of us in the car club, how to make fun and games out of nothing. And I just want to thank him for that, because there will be a lot of times in the future at events when we will be doing silly Ron things, such as, you know, don't be surprised if you're out there in a cow pie toss or a cherry pitting contest. Whatever happens to be there that you can make fun out of, it's going to happen, and it will be Ron. Thank you.
So I'll give another call for stories, and if anybody's thinking about it, Uncle Neil, you're going to come back for another go?
Yeah, very short.
You come.
This is a story. This is a story about Ron not only organized fishing tournaments and car club tours. We did a lot of things like that, but he also organized Christmas parties. We used to have a Christmas party in town, and we invited the Fraser Valley people as well as the people in Vancouver and New Westminster, but the company got so big, Ron said, I want to have my own Christmas party, he said, out in the valley. I said, that's fine. So one morning I came into the office, and my secretary came in and she said, you better take this telephone call. She said, there's a guy on here, and she said, he's really pissed off. And I said, what? Where is he from? And she said, he's from the Bedford House. You know what that is? I said, yeah, the Bedford House. I said, that's an old house in Fort Langley. I said, it's a restaurant. So I said, yeah, I'll take the call. So the guy says, I want somebody, he says, to come out here and have a look at my place. And he said, I understand you're in charge of this company. And he said, I think I'm going to have problems with the roof. And I said, he said, your staff were here last night. He said, for a Christmas party. And he said, not only did they get up on my roof, he said, they brought their own booze. He said, they brought a case or two of champagne in here. And he said, there was 3 of them up on my roof spraying each other with champagne. And he said, The ringleader was a guy, he said, with a gray beard. Well, I said, geez, it must have been Santa Claus. He said it was not Santa Claus. He said it was the manager of your branch in Abbotsford, and he said his name was Ron. End of story.
Okay, so that's one I've never heard. I looked at Mom and her head was down. So were you there when this happened, Mom?
I guess I must have been, but
Maybe you were already into the champagne and
I
don't
think so.
remember.
Mel McCallum.
Oh, Mel, where are you? Oh, yeah, ringleader. That, yeah.
And Dorothy, were you on the roof?
She might have been on the roof.
Was I on the roof? No.
Okay, so I'm going to tell one more. Oh, yes, come on, come on. I'm just filling time, so come on up.
So, anything too far or something?
Hi, my name is Donna. I was a restaurant manager for McDonald's, and Ron and his cohorts meet there every Friday for coffee. So I haven't known Ron for a long time, but it was a good time, and definitely enjoyed any time that I got to meet him. I used to talk a lot, and he likes to talk a lot, so we got along very well. One of the things was I used to talk about McHappy Day. And McHappy Day is the day that we raise money for children's charities. And I told Ron, well, you know, we're always looking for new things to happen at McHappy Day. And he said, well, we've got a car club. He goes, why can't you come out to one of our car club meetings and we can see if the team would like to come out and show off their cars. So off I go, meet up there on I believe it was Tuesdays? No? Wednesdays. It was a Wednesday, and got to meet all of his friends, and beyond my belief, they all decided they'd come out on McHappy Day and helped us out. Now, that's the way Ron was. He was always thinking of others and always thinking of things, and that's what I learned about him. The one thing that was always funny was whenever I went to that table on Fridays, I had to be careful because these guys always had something up their sleeve. And I was always like, oh, you guys, what's going on today? Because the restaurant, the table was at the very back of the restaurant. And you could hear these fellas laughing all the way at the back of the restaurant in the kitchen. So you know they were telling jokes. And one of the things that they used to do, they sat right at the corner, and it's a very strong corner where you turn. And I'm sure that they would just wait for those people to come around that corner to see who was going to hit the side. So it was definitely a lot of fun. We enjoyed those times when those guys were there, and Ron was definitely the ringleader of it all. So thanks, Ron, for all the happiness.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little more time to think about it. If you're contemplating coming up, I'll tell you one more story. And if nobody's up here by the time I'm done, we'll carry on. So we've talked about my dad's work ethic and about how he saw things. And one thing that he really despised was when Michael, my brother, and I would get a little too affixed to the television set. He didn't like us to be lazy. So Mrs. Asaph, you may remember this story. He came home one day because the shop was all of 2 minutes from the house, so Michael and I were never safe. And it was after I'd graduated from high school, I'd started driving, and I was at that point in time driving my grandmother's old car. It was her 1975, what I like to call monkey snot green Maverick with a white vinyl roof. Now, don't get me wrong, as a teenager, you're thankful for that car. I loved that car, and I appreciated it, but I didn't wash it a lot. So he came home, and it was winter, and I mean, it was winter. And he came home, and of course, what was I doing at 17, 18 years old? I was watching TV, because that's what you do when you're a lazy teenager. So he came home, had 50 fits, and told me, because it was the first thing that came to mind, to get outside and wash my car. So I was terrified at this point. I'd upset my dad, and now I was upset and probably grumbling and, you know, didn't want to get in any more trouble. So I went outside
and I went to wash my car. And when I turned the hose on and sprayed it on my car, it froze into a sheet of ice all down my car. So I phoned the shop, and Daddy wasn't back at the shop yet, but I phoned the shop, and Mrs. A answered, and I said, I don't know what to do. We tried to wash the car, and it just froze, and it's covered in ice, and I don't know what to do, and he's going to come home, he's going to be so mad. And she just said to me very calmly, Rhonda Bear, you just let me deal with this. And I never heard about it again. And that's how Daddy was. So does anybody else have any other words? Okay. Oh, there we go.
I'm Dave Gamorn. I'm Ron's best friend, and I am very I don't know what to say, but anyway, I've known Ron's really early 80s when he came to Abbotsford, and I was in business and he was in business, and we did a lot of business together. We did a lot of holidaying together, and he was just a great guy and a real good friend. And in the end, all of the Eybens are very good friends of mine, and I appreciate all the things we've done together, and I thank the Eybens for, I don't know what to say, just, anyway, Ron, I'm going to miss you, and I hope you have lots of fun up there, and I hope everybody, hope he does well up there. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to close off with a bit of a sing-along, and I'm going to explain why these two songs are important to our family. So the first one we're going to sing, my cousin Debbie is going to come up and lead us off because you don't want to hear me sing. So we've given you song sheets, and the first one is for the Unicorn song. And when Michael and I were little, that was one of the TV shows that was super important, and it wasn't because we liked the Irish Rovers, but it was because every single time the Irish Rovers were on, they closed the TV show with the Unicorn song, and we just loved that song. I mean, come on, anytime they sing about green alligators and long-necked geese. So we loved it, and that just became a family favorite. And Happy Trails, well, what's there to say about why Happy Trails is awesome? It just is. And I think it's everything that mattered to my dad, was looking at things and knowing that you are going to be seeing somebody that you love again. So let's start with the Unicorn song, Deb. Okay.
So I just want to tell you that this is not a performance, this is a sing-along.
That's why you all have song
Repeat
sheets.
after me, you're going to sing along.
They all have song sheets.
And there's no excuse, you have a song sheet. So. And I just got this last night, so here we go.
Long time ago when the earth was green, there were kind of animals that you've ever seen. Around the earth when the earth was being born, and the youngest of them all was a unicorn. Alligators and long-necked geese, the humpback camels and some chimpanzees, the cats and rats and elephants, as sure as you're born. The loveliest of all was the unicorn.
those moments when you definitely have to say, get on the same page.
You gotta start. What's that? You gotta start. You gotta start. You gotta start. Oh, your words. Sing. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. I can't tell you how much it means. Please take a flower arrangement. And on behalf of the Eybens, I wish you all happy trails.
Pretty much.
Good job, Rhonda. Yeah. We made it.
We did.